Welcome back to Momentous Struggle, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast. On this week's episode, we have a pinch hitter in the form of Chris Sampson, as Aubrey had to take a break because he couldn't handle being around me this week, I guess, or something like that. So I have Chris. Chris decided, to come and say hi to me and talk about, I guess we're going to talk about prepping for GTs, because you might have done one or two this past year.
I've done a few. I've done a couple.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We were before we jumped on to start recording, we were talking about how you had done 8 podcasts in like the last 12, or not podcasts, 8 GTs in the last 12 months and 6 in the last season. So yeah, quite a few.
Right. A few. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's somebody had asked, okay, so where can we get a hold of you? I was like, yeah, just go to your local GT. I'll be there.
Yeah, right. If it's any GT in like west of the Mississippi, you will probably be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think by now anyone who listens to any podcast out there probably knows who you are, but do you want to give a brief rundown of who is the purest of Christopher Sampsons?
You can call me Chris. Some people call me the purest of Christophers. Don't do that. I'm kidding. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, no, I'm just an Arizona guy that's thirsty for water and competition. That's it.
Sounds good. I mean, and we do have moisture farmers out here in Arizona to kind of help with that. So, just like on Tatooine, we're here to sit there and make sure your thirst is quenched. But no, it's nice. I mean, like our local community is pretty awesome out here, and we have a lot of great players to sit there and kind of help get those competitive juices flowing. I think the last tournament we had was a little slow. Like we only had 8 players, which I say only 8. Like that's, some places are happy to get that many players.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we had a good fun event. I mean, it's like you look at it, it's like, oh, we had Matt Booker, Holden was there. I mean, so we get some I would say some pretty good quality players here in Arizona. Just, I mean, and that's just that. But I mean, you got Nick and Jake and. Man, Sheev is just so many good players out here. Oh yeah, and Sheev was at that event too. How could I forget?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
yeah, so
event. And I think it's pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, so we wanted to talk about. I mean, I think we'll kind of work our way into talking about like GTs and stuff like that. But usually we start out by talking about what you've been up to. So have you been? I know we have our league in full swing right now. Have you been getting any games in or anything?
I have a game tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I have a game tomorrow with Liam Lamb Chop, and so we're gonna do that. I got one game in during that event, right? Because we got to match with with my other opponent, and then but just in the last I don't know, week or two, I have just been dojoing relentlessly with like Dizzard and Sarah Cruel and some of these other guys, and just saying like, how can I get out of playing this Cassian list that I'm practicing right now? Like, what else can I do? And so that's what I've been up to. Is we have just been like, I will try something, and then I'll say this is good, and then I'll have another game where it just goes really badly, like trying to counter Cassian, and then Dizzard will come in and say, I'll flip the table and say, well, I'm back to Cassian again, I guess, and Dizzard will come in and say, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And I first have to.
Have you tried Maul?
Yeah. Exactly. No, actually, though, he did suggest Maul today. So you're not wrong. And Talzin, by the way, and Talzin.
Exactly.
But. Yeah, and I mean, but like, and he's not wrong, but my initial thought is, no, I tried all that, I can't, it doesn't work, right? But then I sit there and stew on it long enough, I'm like, okay, well, actually, I've got a couple ideas, so we're just doing that like on repeat because I want to do something else, and I just have to find out what that is. That's what I've been up to. What have you been up to?
Well, for me, it's really been just prepping for Adepticon because, of course, we'll be doing it back streaming again, so it's basically trying to get overlays done, looking at, like, I've bought some new equipment, so looking to try and like organize that up and probably like start seeing how that's going to all work. Probably gonna I'll be dojoing, I guess. Streaming is probably the best way to put it, putting all the stream stuff together, trying to figure out how I'm going to get all of the equipment all the way to Adepticon, because flights have gotten more expensive and like checking bags has gotten more expensive. So that's really what I've been up to, is like, we're 2 months out from Adepticon, literally from the time that we're recording this one, from the time that I'm going to be flying out. So it's a
Hmm.
matter of just trying to sit there and trying not to be last minute with everything, and see what we can do there. Because
Yeah.
I want to be, once I get there, I want to make sure that we're putting on as good of a show as possible for all the people paying to watch me for free, I guess.
Get all the logistics solved. Yeah,
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, and
Like,
unfortunately, we like Izzy, because I'm sure people will find out eventually. He is not able to make it this year, so like having to get punting
no.
to get a fourth person to join us, and which we did. I mean, I had someone that was
No.
up at LVO and doing some streaming, like jumped in and streamed a match with me. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, Izzy just couldn't make it, unfortunately.
That's a bummer.
Yep. And what were you going to say?
He'll
Sorry.
be missed. Um, I've just had people, say, "Oh, well, you got 2 months to practice this thing. You got 2 months to figure it out." And I'm like, that is not a lot of time. Like it seems like a lot of time, but it just sneaks up on you because then you have to say, "Okay, well, I have to do all these logistical things, and I've got to if you need to paint stuff, then you need to paint stuff." And for me, I'm really slow. Yeah, so on and so forth. 2 months is not very long.
It's not. It's not. I guess that's kind of a good jumping off point to kind of talk about, what
Mhm.
it takes, especially like Adepticon or any GT for that matter, when you're having to travel, like everything that goes into it. I mean, so the first thing is just figuring out how you're going to get there. Are you going to drive? Are you going to fly?
Mhm.
How are you going to get there? And everything along those lines. I mean, have you already started looking into flights and like how bad those are going to be?
No. uh, so all right, so I know what they were. Now
Mhm.
they're going to change, and I kind of have that rough timeline of I know about how long I have before I need to book a flight before prices start changing. And
Mhm.
that's about a month. If you are within like under 30 days, then the prices will start to skyrocket, right?
Yeah.
For booking flights and stuff. Yeah. So I've got a little bit of time, but it is a big event, and there's some logistics still that, you can do things to make things easier. Like you could fly into a different airport that's a little bit further away and drive. And so I know a couple of people have been talking about, oh, well, let's fly into this other airport cheaper and we'll just drive up. And I have been doing everything in my power to not think about that just yet, but this is the week to do that. It is. It's time.
Yeah.
It's time.
It is. Yeah, I'm actually like everybody that I'm going with has been buying their tickets. Like this is the week we're making sure that we're getting all of our tickets and everything
Hmm.
along those lines. It's prices have gone up a little bit though too. I've noticed
Yeah.
it's not they're not as cheap as they were last year. They weren't cheap last year
Hmm.
to begin with, but
Hmm.
we were looking at it and like I don't think we can even get a nonstop flight this year. We're actually going to have a layover
Really?
both
Oh,
ways. Well, it saves us like $150 to sit there and have a layover.
okay.
We
Yeah.
can do a direct flight, but I think for that $150 is not something to sneeze at when you're like start adding up all of the costs and everything like that
Hmm.
to everything. I mean, so it's like I know like some people might fly into like Chicago or something along those lines because it's a bigger airport than Milwaukee, and I think that's probably something that people would end up looking into is something along those lines. I mean, how is that kind of what like other people were talking about with you?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
It's almost like I've done this before.
It's you seem to know.
Right, right. And I think that's, I mean, that is because, especially like for those that don't know, like flying into Chicago is going to be a little bit cheaper. You could end up probably like taking like the train or something up from Chicago into Milwaukee. Again, you're probably going to save yourself another $100 just to do that because like you can get a nonstop flight, especially for us from Phoenix to Chicago for like I'm looking at it right now, like $200, where a round trip ticket like for to Milwaukee was more than that. And but then you have to pay for figure out how you're going to get there. But if you have a group of people that are going to just split, either like a renting a car or something, that's not too bad too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different options as far as travel and what you can do. It's I almost miss Chicago, being in Chicago, just because it is a larger traveling hub. So it's a little bit, it was always a little bit easier to get into Chicago,
Hmm.
because there's also there's O'Hare and there's Midway. There's two different airports there, where Milwaukee, you only have the one result. So interesting stuff,
Yeah.
though. I mean, as far as like trying to figure out which way is the best way to go and everything along those lines. I mean, so after you
Yeah.
figure out how you, oh, go ahead.
Well, just in comparison to last year, I had
Mhm.
spent like because I had a spreadsheet where I kept track of predicted costs and actual costs after that because I wanted to know, right, what does this cost me? And it was just me. I rented a car, I rented a hotel, and then I got a friend from Canada to come in. I was like, hey, you want to come hang out? Like he had nothing to do with Adepticon. I was just like, hey, you want to come hang out? Like, I'm renting a hotel room. If you're curious, if you want to like split the hotel room a little bit. So I split the hotel, and then he ended up paying for some of the car rental, and it still like in total cost me about $2,000. I
Which is
expect
kind of
it
what I would
it can be
expect. Yeah.
better than that, because I've
Yeah.
talked with others who split it a lot further with like Airbnbs and stuff, and they came out a lot
Mhm.
better off than I did. So
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like the next thing I was going to say, kind of look at, was like, there's a lot of different ways as far as lodging. I mean, you're going to be there for, on average, 5 to 6 days, just because the con
mhm.
itself is 4 days. You're probably going to you might get there the night
Yeah,
before. You might stay the night after, depending. So, I mean, there's at least 5 days you're probably going to end up being in Milwaukee. So getting a hotel for 5 days isn't cheap at all, even if you are splitting it with one
right.
other person or something along those lines. I know a lot of people do like the Airbnb, especially if you get a house that's not too far off. You can end up, getting 6 to 8 people to share an Airbnb. I mean, have you looked into that as far as an option instead of doing the hotel thing, or?
Yeah, and I think that's the
Yeah,
direction we're going for this year to make it pencil out a lot better.
it would make sense. I mean, it's like, I mean, I know for us, like being that we're part of the con itself, like we get some pretty good deals as far as the hotel room and everything along those lines. So we don't like, there's not something a big concern that we have, where, like, I know as far as players, it's like, man, it's on top of everything else. That's probably, I think, can be your biggest expense if you don't plan it out properly, especially if you just get a room by yourself.
Yes, yes, it absolutely was.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like it. That's got to be, I think, the biggest thing that people need to think about when they look at going into these cons. I mean, it's the nice thing is, like, some of the smaller ones, like if you were like coming to Arizona or something like that, sometimes people stay with people. I think, like, didn't, for example, when Sarah Cruel came down to play here in our local GT, I believe he stayed with you, if I don't remember correctly, right?
He stayed with me every time that I've gone to Vegas. Well, the last basically, yeah, when I go to Vegas, I'm staying with him, and so we're gonna buddy system the the expenses.
And it makes sense. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do with stuff like that. I know, like, Zion's
Mhm.
Finest, when they've run their event up there, like, Kenny's had people stay at his place. And I think that's kind of like the
Mhm.
way you have to do it. I mean, I look back to, like, when I played Magic, man, there would be, I had a cot that I would bring with me, and it's like, hey, I'll chip in for your hotel room. I just need to set up my cot somewhere so I have somewhere to sleep, type of a thing. And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the method that you have to go about to sit there and make that work, is really kind of just getting those two big logistics pieces, is like figuring out where am I going to stay and how am I going to get there. I mean, and if you can do
Yeah.
that without too much stress, you probably are going to be okay.
Yeah, and rely on the community, like
Mhm.
because if you're coming in and this is like one of your first times doing it, it's going to be more expensive. Like my previous time at Adepticon was more expensive, but like even when I was in Utah, like Scott from the Zion's Finance crew was saying, hey, let me pick you up. You don't have to get an Uber, and he drove me around far more than he should have. Like I remember like the last night he was like, hey man, I am wiped out. I Can you get an Uber and just go back to your hotel room from here? Like I'll pay half. And I was like, dude, you don't have to pay half of my Uber. It's like you drove me around all weekend long. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that are willing to help out. Use them. Use
Yeah.
that resource.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's one of the great things about our community too, is that we do have people that are willing to sit there and kind of help out where they can, and I'm glad that
Mhm.
we have that within our community, that there's people that are willing to do that. So
Yeah.
once you, like, get those main logistics pieces done, I mean, you were talking about it a little bit, of like finding your list, painting your list? Like, what is the process that you go through when you're trying to like really kind of decide on what list you're going to bring to an event?
I have notes. All right, let's get to those notes here. um, I mean, so there's a lot of things like you kind of have to start with what you're going to take, and it depends on your mentality. You need to understand your own goals, I think. And so if your goal is I just want to play the things that I really love, that is going to change everything, right? As opposed to, oh, I want to do really well, uh, right? And I'm not saying that those are mutually exclusive. They can have some overlap. Like you could be someone like me who both wants to play what he really loves and also do really well in that, and that can cause, like you have to really figure that out. If you don't know what your goal is going in, right? That's the first step. Is what do I want to achieve? What am I going to do? Am I going to go and just hang out and have fun with all the guys and, like, all right, well, then I just probably need my favorite Star Wars models in this case, and it doesn't really matter. But it can get way more in depth when you start saying, okay, well, I want to start maybe putting up. I want to get this far in an event, or have this many accolades, wins. I don't know what you want to call it. I want to have some results. Okay, if you start to say you want to be competitive, then there's extra steps. Like, what do you think that meta is going to be? You have to think about the meta, and you can't say we know what the meta is, because we don't. We have really good ideas, and we can look at previous events this last season, I guess, right, since May, and say, all right, well, this has been the trend, but Adepticon is going to be the largest event, right? I would imagine
Oh no, yeah.
it's
There's
going to be the
I was.
largest.
It's definitely there's I just got an email, or I'm in a group chat with Adepticon,
Hmm.
and basically there is only 10 tickets left for the World
Wow.
Championship qualifier, and I believe that was at 128. So there's over 108. Like there's over probably close to 110 players already registered for the event,
Goodness.
for the
Not counting
qualifier, and
seeds, right? Yeah.
not counting the GT winners, I do believe. So yeah, there's a lot of people. This is going to be by far the largest event. I mean, over 100
Yeah.
players.
That's great. So
Fantastic.
yeah, so when you get that many players from all over the world, from like even just all over the same country, um, right? You have varying thought processes from the different areas they're coming from, different goals, right? Because you could just be someone saying, "Hey, I just want to play my favorite Star Wars models." Okay, and it's going to be a big mix of all that stuff. So you have to weigh what you think the meta might be based off of what it was, where, and and make some guesses
Mhm.
on what's going to happen. So probably there's going to be some of the big meta threats that you expect, most
Yeah.
likely, right? There's going to be a fair amount of those, sure, but they might not be in the exact format that you think they're going to be, or with the exact pairing partners you think. So you have to sit there and make some guesses on what do I think I'm going to see, and how am I going to answer those when I sit down at the table to play some games? So I'm sorry, this was a really long-winded answer to that question of how do I start to prepare, right? Because it starts with mentality, and then after that, you have to start saying what am I going to play against, and how am I going to solve it?
That makes sense. I mean, and I don't think there's a short answer to the question
Hmm.
there, because there's a lot of factors you need to take into consideration. What are you wanting to play? What are you expecting to play into?
Yeah,
We don't have we haven't had a GT in what, a month and a half, 2 months. Like we haven't had one since what, November, I think, right? There was CanCon that just took place, but
right. There was one in December. I want to say, was it Everwinter? Never was it?
yeah, but I think that was a pretty small for
Yeah, it was
GT
like
wise. That
mhm.
wasn't that big. There
Yeah.
Everwinter is pretty much known as an MCP event, and
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so and they run other things too. But as far as AMG stuff, I think the
mhm.
MCP side is probably their biggest one that they run out there. But
Yeah.
it's
It was around like
that
16
said,
people. It was small.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it wasn't gigantic, and it's really that is the the northeast part, or no, I'm sorry, yeah, the northeastern part of the country. So the
Mhm.
meta's a little bit different than I think most people are used to hearing about,
Yeah.
and I think that's so that I don't know how much data you can pull from that. I mean, and then like again, yeah, I just said CanCon just happened this past weekend, but
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think the Aussie the Aussie meta is not always in line with what we see in the U.S. and throughout the rest of the world. So it's interesting to kind of take a look at what you're going to do with the data that's available, through
Yeah,
Longshanks and stuff. Do you dive into Longshanks a lot and look at the data that's on there?
I do. I do. Yeah,
And
I'll
how,
spend a lot of time doing that.
and so that does that dictate the decisions you make, or does it, or how much do you take into account when you look at that, like what you want to play versus what you're seeing perform?
I would say that it informs my decisions, absolutely, right? Because I'm going to sit there and look at the really, really common things, the really low win rate things, and figure out if there's something in between. Plus, we have a new mission that we've been told about that's coming. So we'll have a new mission entirely, and that is most definitely going to throw a wrench into everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the list, like you could sit there and say, okay, hey, we know what the meta. Let's say you did. Let's say you guessed the meta perfectly based off of the previous events. Well, the previous
Mm-hmm.
events did not have this new mission, so that might change everything. You could have
Right.
something that was close to being a top tier thing before and competing, and maybe this new mission props it up a little bit further, and suddenly it is able to compete at the Adepticon stage versus really scary lists. We don't know. But yeah, I do look at the pairing partners and and how often things are being played, and that does help. Especially for other players. It's honestly it's a bit more helpful for me when I'm looking at specific players, because I do look at individual players' profiles. People that I know that are going to be there. Um, so yeah, I do dive into the Longshanks data a bit.
I mean, and that makes sense. I mean, that's I think the best place for us to get data, other than
Mhm.
Kenny's spreadsheet. If he still even is managing that, I
I
don't
think he
know.
does. I think so.
but so I think that's kind of like really where we're at with it, is like that's where you're going to be able, if you want to dive deep into the data piece of it.
Hmm.
So once you like kind of get an idea of what you're going to play, how about how much do you practice your list? Do you spend a lot of time? I mean, do you spend like 8 games a week, or how much do you think you're playing like full
Goodness no.
games?
um, the that's a tricky question because it's going to depend on how much time I have any given week, which work influences
Varies.
that. Yeah, I like on the low end 1 game a week, on the high end 4 games a week, and maybe I'll sneak in a higher number that's like a shadow box, which is really just half a game. I'm not playing full games, so that will inflate the numbers. But like if I see something that has an opening, I'm like, oh well, maybe I try this out, and then the first struggle get absolutely bopped, then I that tells me something.
Right.
It doesn't tell me how it performs throughout the entire game, but it gives me something to work with.
No, that makes sense. I mean, so like, kind of to use a magic analogy, especially when I was playing like top competitive,
Hmm.
I would usually play out like just like we call it goldfishing in Magic, where you would like look at your top, you would draw a hand, and you would play out like your first 5 hands, like if as if like you were playing like how would I play out my cards and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I mean, do you ever do something similar to that, like just where you're like set up your stuff on terrain and kind of just play out like how you would do different activations, like depending on like how you flip over your order card, like maybe like you go through like your first 3 or 4 activations? Do you do stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I generally want to know what my best 3 cards are, something like that, because you can reliably get your best 3 cards with a reserve. If you don't get the first one, and just keep going into a few of the lists that I expect. Like you can't prepare for absolutely everything, but you can make some guesses and prepare against those. I mean, yeah, so I will do that and prepare for some openers and do some things and it doesn't have to be too in depth, right? Like I don't have to play out the whole game like we mentioned. And I did that in other systems too, where like if I was doing something with a practice partner and it didn't pan out or I made a mistake, within the
Mhm.
first 2-3 minutes of a game, we just say, well, re-rack, let's go again. There's no reason to play out a full game if you make mistakes within 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have controlled and actual good practice. You don't want to just sit
Hmm.
there and if you mess up something, keep on going with that
Yeah.
mistake. You want to kind of just take back, maybe start over. That way you're getting good reps with
Hmm.
good information and making the best choices you can. So I think that's something that
Yeah.
I don't know if all the players do, but definitely something worth putting like looking as a consideration of like maybe this is something you could do as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
So how soon or how close do you usually try and lock your list in, especially when you're looking at like a large event like Worlds? Do you normally look at trying to get that locked in like a month out? Or I know some people will change the night before. They're like, you know what, I want to play this instead, and change up their models. I mean, what do you kind of try to do?
I don't know that I can answer that exactly. The reason is because I think you should lock your list in as soon as you're confident and happy with it, and that is a that could change. It could change if my mentality and goal is I'm just going to play the things I really want to play. That could be different tomorrow. It could be different in a month from now, right?
Mhm.
I'm jamming Dooku and Asajj right now. Do I think that I'm still going to be having fun with that in a month? Maybe. I know one part of my list is pretty locked because I love it and I think it performs really well. So I'm like halfway there for that list lock, and I know exactly what I want it to do. I have all sorts of stuff mapped out because of all the reps that went through over the last year. I know half. If
Mhm.
I knew, if I was like really confident in all the list, yeah, lock it in now. But I,
Right.
I can't I can't commit to that just yet because of my goals, and I'm still searching for an extra, like a piece to the puzzle. Plus the new mission.
Right.
I don't know that we really can. Like I kind of wish that they didn't do this. Like, don't get me wrong, we're gonna all enjoy having new content for the big
Mhm.
tournament because I think we're all a bit anxious to try something new. It's been many moons since we had something change up the game a bit, but I kind of wish it was 2 weeks earlier, even just so we had more time. Because I'm not like it's gonna be tough if you're really planning around that to lock in a list without knowing how this mission is going to interact with the event.
Yeah, and we haven't even seen all of the cards for this mission yet. I mean, we
Yeah.
can get a
Hmm.
general idea. So I think I'm hoping that like we're 6 weeks out from about the time that that mission comes out. So I'm hoping that we're going to start getting some more information on it. But
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure AMG is also kind of prepping for Adepticon and trying to get all that stuff worked out. So
Hmm.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
So just like your opinion, since we're talking about lists and everything like that, what do you, I mean, and you dive into the data probably more than anyone I know, so what do you think will probably be some of those things that we should be looking for? Do you think it's going to be things like Cassian and Boss? Is there something that you feel is probably going to be a sleeper that we, without giving away your secret tech or anything like that, but anything that you're thinking is like a sleeper in there that people might not be thinking about?
They're the obvious things, right? Like
Yeah,
Cassian's great. You're gonna see Cassian. Boss is
right.
great. You're gonna see Boss. You can dive a bit further and deeper into that and saying, okay, well, how do the different versions of this work together? Because Cassian with various rebels leaders aren't all operating the same way. So if you know two or three of the popular ones, or two or three of the ones that you think will be there, because
Mhm.
when you go to an event, you don't have to have the best list at the event to win. You just have to have the best list given the circumstances you're under on that day. And the circumstances are how everybody else is feeling, what they brought, what they thought the meta was going to be, the missions that were there, the terrain that was there. So you have all these factors, and I don't need the best absolute top tier list. I just need the list that's going to perform under the circumstances. Um, yeah. So you can make some guesses, right? Like obviously, Boss and Cassian and their permutations. So make some guesses on those. As for other things beyond that, Vader 1, I feel really confident with Vader 1, and I don't care if people don't agree. And someone is going to bring Vader 1. I will be one of them. Okay. And again, like I don't really care that much about secret tech, because I generally do stuff a little bit off the beaten path, a little bit at least. So if somebody wants to prepare for me specifically, I'm one person
You're
at this
one
stage.
out of over 100, so like good luck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that Iden and Vader are certainly a threat that you should consider, even if you think, okay, well, three guys will have it. Maybe more, who knows? Or maybe you'll see Vader with Boss or Vader with, I don't know, Kiadi.
Yep.
Could happen. So I think some form of Vader is worth thinking about. Have that on your mind. Uh, and some form of Mando. We haven't seen Mandos really pop off in the last year. I'm not a Mandos player, so I don't know why. I have some guesses, but it's possible that we see armor show up, right? Someone loves
Mhm.
armor. They're
Yeah.
popular. Even if they haven't been, taking home grand tournament prizes, doesn't mean you're not going to see them when you throw in a bunch of people that love Mandos
Right.
into an event.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're popular to begin with. I mean, and I've been on the Mama Mando train for a while here now myself. I mean, I think there's definitely multiple lists that have legs, and I don't think armor is bad at all.
mhm,
There, she does some pretty cool things with not taxing your force and everything along those lines.
yeah.
So, do you like outside of those? Because yeah, I mean, those are kind of the things that I was thinking about as well. Mando, Cassian. Do you think there's like a dark horse in there somewhere, like with like a something that we're not thinking, like that is going to slip in? Like, I mean, the Ewoks thing is still doing really well.
Mm,
I think there's that could sit there and slip in, especially with the changes and people really kind of discovering what you can do with like a Luke, with like secondary Luke and secondary and with C3PO R2D2 there.
yeah. I do. Yeah, I think so I mean I played a bit against that, like some Ewoks, the Leia Ewoks, and honestly there's definitely legs on that
Mhm.
in the right circumstances. So if somebody comes in and has practiced it and they know what those circumstances are and their win conditions versus whatever they want to play it against, which is probably like, you know, who knows? I'm not an expert there, right? So I would say Cassian. Who knows? Yeah, it could take the storm or take those lists by storm, and we could see Ewoks. Absolutely, I think they're pretty good.
Yeah.
We could see. I know this is gonna sound strange, Todd. I think there is a Veers list out there that has some legs. I've put a few reps into it, and occasionally was able to break the ankles of Cassian, and that kind of surprised me. Now, I wasn't able to do it a whole bunch, and I went and searched for something else that I have my heart's closer to, but it could happen. Yeah, there's definitely some dark horse lists that could show up.
Yeah, I think Veers is still missing a piece to really give it its consistency
Hmm.
that it needs.
Yeah.
But I think there's still something there. I think there, like, at some point in time we might get to that point, but it'll be interesting to see. So that's cool. I mean, like,
Mm.
I think you and like, but I think we talk offline sometimes too about different things where it's like we have similar loves when it comes to Star Wars with the
Yeah.
dark side and everything. So very excited that. So you kind of talked about having to figure out what you're going to play so you can get stuff painted and not being like a fast painter.
Yeah.
What is it that, like, I mean, is there a time frame that you like, okay, I need to have my list kind of settled so that I can sit there and have this painted, like have things painted? Or do you kind of like have a couple of options that you paint? Well, how do you kind of approach your prep for that? Because I know a lot of people don't have every box that they have painted. They have their piles of opportunity for sure.
um. So half my list is done, and I don't need to worry about
Okay.
painting any of that. That brings me down to two squads, and I know that if I'm really motivated, I can paint a mini to a fairly high standard that I appreciate for myself. in a week and a half. So hopefully I only have to paint 3 minis between now and Adepticon. That's my plan. Like I'm looking at my list saying, and I've considered other things too about, oh, well, maybe I switch to this. And I said, but that would make me have to paint 4 minis. And is that realistic for, but well, then what if I change my mind? So I have that to juggle, and I have a couple list ideas, and the amount of how minis that I have to paint is factored into my decision on what is going to work with. Because if I get down to a month and I say, well, I'm feeling this other list instead. Well, how many minis do I have to paint? Is it 4? I can't do it.
Right.
Or I have to compromise on what I want to, how I paint it. And I don't like to do that, but I will do it sometimes.
Do you look into like borrowing models so that like from time to time? So like if you're like, man, I really want to play this. This is like
Mhm.
really singing to me, but I just don't have the time. I mean, do you look into reaching out to other people in the community to kind of help?
Um, it hasn't come up a lot, but yes. And when I went to Evergreen, Omnis and Sin let me borrow some of their minis for that.
Mhm.
So I got to play a beautifully painted Riff and beautifully painted Aquas and Nasari at Evergreen that I did not own. Um, yes, so yeah, I'll definitely, if people aren't going to use them and they're happy to let me borrow them, then yes, that helps. That helps
Makes
tremendously.
sense. I mean,
Mhm.
you do have like a person that you live with that's an amazing painter. He just is not
Yeah.
the fastest of painters, so like that adds to it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, he just paints what he's inspired to paint. Um, and it's not that he isn't a fast painter. He can pump a model out pretty quick. It's just, there has to be that inspiration there, and he's 100% going to buy whatever he wants and do that. So when we were watching the second season of Andor,
Hmm.
and he was like, "When do those boxes come out? Aren't those coming out pretty soon?" I was like, "Yeah, they're coming up. They're real right around the corner now." And he's like, "Maybe you want to get me Cassian or Krennic? I'll paint those for you." And I was like, "Yeah, right away. I'll get them right away." So,
That's
take
really
it
cool.
take advantage of that. So I do have a few minis, like my Mando. Oh my goodness, I can't paint a Mando to that standard, but I found that he was inspired to do it and took advantage
So
of him wanting
basically,
to
kind
borrow.
of find the show that like
Uh-huh.
come over to your house, put on something, that sit down, maybe get him a pizza or something, and have him watch a show to see if you can inspire him to paint what you want. Got
Yeah,
it. That's like I will
exactly.
be over later this week. Gotcha.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like I happen to know that he, was like, when does Balin come out? When's Morgan come out? And I was like, soon. So
That's
yeah, I'm
fantastic.
prepping the next stuff.
That's yeah. So maybe just repeat like right before that comes out. Maybe go back and watch season one of Ahsoka. Like, hey, we should rewatch this show just in case.
Oh,
Since
I
it's
will.
good.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, check
Love
out
it.
those Night Sisters with that magic and stuff that's going. Isn't that cool? Look, what are
Right.
the colors? The colors.
The zombie stormtroopers. Those are pretty cool. I wonder what those would look like painted. I mean, do you think you could do something like that?
I mean, that looks pretty good. I don't know that you could, and then he goes, well, of course I could.
Yeah, just got to challenge them a little. That's all. That's all.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, so I guess going into like Adepticon, I mean, we kind of talked about like all those things, but like, what are there some things that like you think are automatic you have to focus on, like things that you're concerned about going into like an event, like preparation wise, that maybe we didn't talk about,
Do you mean in
like
in
anything
terms
in
of playing
general,
the
like
game?
either way. I mean, like yeah, like playing the game. Like, what is it that you're like? I know like the biggest thing, I mean, I going into like big events was always like mistake free, making mistake, trying not to make mistakes, not missing your triggers. What is it like that you think is like the big piece to like going into like an event of like gameplay wise that you're kind of focusing on to make sure that you're doing, because I mean you're gonna make a mistake here and there, especially like
Hmm.
in a long big tournament like this. I mean, you're looking at, if you're making it all the way to finals, you're probably playing what, 12 to 16 games over the course of the weekend, especially if you're
Hmm.
playing in the team event. Like, what is it you're focusing on gameplay wise to kind of keep yourself going? I know, caught you off
Um,
guard there.
I, yeah. Um, so that's
a
that's a
big
really
question. I
hard
know.
to answer. That is a tough question. Yeah. I would say with half of my list, I feel like so confident that I'm not even practicing it. Like
Mhm.
I'm good to go, locked in. There's nothing that's going to surprise me, and I probably feel like I know more than most of my opponents do about the matchup. So I'm solid.
Okay.
I need to figure that out for something else.
Right.
And I have some options where I'm kind of locked and I'm like, yeah, I could do this thing, but I don't want to. I don't like to play the rebels, so I don't want to play the rebels. So what else are my options? And
Mhm.
I guess I need to figure out stuff like that, figure out the missions. Like I was asking Matt Booker last week. I said, "Hey, I'm just curious because you were at both Adepticons and I was at one Adepticon. What was the terrain like on the first year? Because I know the second year there weren't a lot of ladders, and what was it like first year? Was it the same?" And he said, "No, it was different." Right? Okay, so that means that I can't make assumptions necessarily that okay, well, Mandos are going to be great because there won't be ladders. That is not necessarily true. It could be true,
Mhm.
but it might not be true. So yeah, I'm
I would
sitting there
say the
thinking, hmm
to kind of add context, I guess because I've been at both Adepticons, streamed
yeah,
both of them, and I do talk to the judges and stuff like that from time to time. They're constantly looking to improve terrain, so like
yeah,
you're not going to see the terrain. I don't think is ever going to be the same from year to
hmm
year. You're always going to have something different. So I would say that you can't really judge your make decisions on your what you're going to play based off of previous terrain layouts because
yeah,
you could I think you're going to have a mix of both years probably this year and add something else in because there's other terrain pieces that have come in as well. So I don't know if that's Adepticon is they have access to one of the largest terrain collections in all of the gaming community out there. It's for the most part all official AMG terrain. So you're probably
hmm
not going to. I mean, and I guess that's one thing that you can rely on is it's going to be official stuff.
yeah.
And that's probably about the biggest thing that you're going to see. But there's been a lot of official terrain that's come out.
It wasn't only official. If I recall correctly, they also had some cranes that
That
were, I want to say
crane,
3D
yeah,
printed. Um,
yeah.
they could have other stuff like that, like other
Mhm.
cranes. But yeah, it's going to be mostly official. Like I wouldn't be at all surprised. I've already had conversations about, that recent tower. I don't remember what it's called. That bunker turret thing that they
The
came out
Outlook
with.
one,
Yeah, that one. Like, and conversations with how am I going to deal with that? How is
right?
that? Because what if that ends up where there's elevation up or an objective up there? What do I do? And I've already had those conversations with a couple of the really competitive guys that I
Hmm.
know, and so I'm coming up with plans for how to deal with terrain that might be there. I'm making guesses on what terrain is
Yeah.
going to be there, but yeah, I don't think like if there's something like ladders, I don't think you can say, oh well, there won't be ladders. Oh, well,
No.
that's as simple as grabbing a bag of ladders.
Right.
We don't know. It's going to evolve. So hmm, I don't know. I think you just have to, at the end of the day, you have to lock in something and make some guesses and say, I think this is it. I think this is going to work. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a kind of like where I would be. I mean, I know like when I played like in competitive events and stuff like that, I really tried to just lock in what I was going to play and get as familiar with that as possible. And I think that's being able to sit there and know the lines of play as much as possible within a
hmm
certain within the list that you're playing is invaluable when it comes to especially the competitive side, especially when you're looking at a 4-day event, like 4 days worth of playing, because by the time you get to that third and fourth day, your brain's pretty fried
Yeah.
with that. So I guess like that kind of leads into how do you keep your stamina up to sit there and stay playing at a competitive level over a long event, like even if like LVO's 3 days. Like, so, I mean, we
hmm
could even go to like something shorter like that. Like, how do you kind of ensure that you stay at a level where you can play? I mean, is it nutrition? Is it rest? Is it a combination of all of that? What do you kind of sit there and do?
It is a combination of all of that, and historically, I have not participated in any events other than the main event at ever. I don't sign up for team events. I don't sign up for, I will just set aside time to go and sit somewhere, and that's not for everybody. Some people really look forward to the team events, and that's what they want to do. But it's a mixture, and you can find the balance for you. You just have to know what you need. Um,
Hmm.
for me, it's I need some time to just let things soak in, let my thoughts kind of crystallize a little bit, get some time to sit, and not talk to anybody. Maybe go find a quiet corner somewhere. So I need stuff like that, but that's not the same for everybody. I also need things like I drink a ton of water. So I like last Adepticon. I think there was one point where I said, "Oh no, I'm about to go into a match and I only have half a water bottle. What do we do?" So I like had flagged my friend, that wasn't playing the game over, and I said, "Hey, could you please go get me a bottle of water and come back during the game because I am gonna die of thirst during this game and my opponent will get a walkover." so um, it's stuff like that. You have to kind of plan some of the nutrition. I know, like if you need a snack, you gotta be ready to go with that. I don't know.
Hmm.
uh, I think there were vending machines at Adepticon. So if you know you're going to
Yeah.
need a snack, you should go grab that beforehand. You should map out here's where the bathrooms are. Here's where the food is. Here's the food that I like, and I'm going to go do that. So when they say, "All right, game's over," all right, now I know exactly where to beeline to get that food, to get the snack, and to keep the power going, the speed up. Because if you
Yeah.
have to spend extra energy in the moment and you don't know where the food that you want is, and you got to go explore, and then you've got 3 minutes to eat when it's all said and done. No, that's not going to work. Not for
Makes
me.
sense. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, one of the things with Adepticon, which is I think it's kind of difficult. I mean, you have the roadmap. There's a lot
Hmm.
of after hour hangouts and stuff like that too.
Hmm.
Do you try and stay away from those, or do you? Because like that's part of the experience, at least for me, for Adepticon, is really kind of like getting to see people that we don't see for the entire year. But at the same time, you're playing the world championships. You're trying to do the best you can. I mean, how do you balance the social aspect and the competitive aspect of it all?
For me, that's not so bad. I kind of enjoy just sitting and hanging out with the group of people. And so after events, they're totally fine. It's going to depend if it is the night before and everyone's like, "Let's go out drinking. We're gonna be out till 2 a.m." Okay, well, you got to know yourself and know if you're able to cut yourself off. If you are, go have fun for a few hours. Don't stay out till 2.
Right.
If that's not you, then maybe say, well, I don't know, I'm not going to do that because I will be out till 2.
Right.
I think you got to know. But I do enjoy hanging out. Like there's that, what was that place called? That marketplace that's really close.
Seventh something. I think it's like Sixth Street Marketplace or something like that. Yeah,
Right.
that was amazing. It was like the
Mm-hmm.
wall of beer. Like there was probably
Yeah.
about what 20 different types of food places that you could get food at.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
People will be hanging out there. Content
Yes.
creators will be hanging out there. Probably Todd will be hanging out there a whole bunch, right, Todd?
Yeah.
Todd
I mean,
popping in.
I don't. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that we would be there probably we're there every night. I mean, and it's we usually get in the day before Adepticon to kind of just get our stuff, our
Hmm.
our bearings and everything. So we'll probably be you'll be able to find us there at Prime at any given evening. So
I like going and hanging out with everybody and just because that to me is relaxing. It's a moment to breathe and um I like to listen. I don't always have the social energy to talk, but other people do, and some other people do anyway. And it's just relaxing for me to go and still be amongst the crowd and hear what people are thinking and hang out, even if my presence is just I'm hanging out by just being there and enjoying the laughter and the listen to people talk. So I enjoyed that. That's relaxing for me. I'll still go to things like that and hang out. I enjoy it.
no, it makes sense. I think that's a lot of what we try to do is because I think you need to have that balance of
Hmm.
the social aspect and not just be like completely driven by the competitive
Yeah.
aspect of it because you could just get bogged down by it. And like I said,
Hmm.
that's the place that marketplace is just an amazing place to go and hang out and just see everyone. I think you're going to see there's painters show up there that do like painting streams, or other players. Every game system you're going to have people that are there playing, and there's always stuff to do. I mean, and depending on what hotel you're in, because there's tons of hotels there, you're probably going to see people all over the place at different
Yeah.
hotels and everything. So totally worthwhile.
But it's also deeply personal, right? Like sometimes even people that are social might want a moment to step back, and so maybe that means one night they're skipping out or something.
Hmm.
I remember a world champion of a different game system I played. We caught him leaving a convention center, and we were like, "Hey, we're gonna go do this thing. You want to go?" And he was like, "No, I'm going back to my room. I'm gonna go sleep." And
Yes.
that's totally fine. Guess what? He won the whole thing. So the next day, so he knew it was right for him.
Yeah, and I think that's the self-awareness is a big piece of that, is like knowing what you need. And I think that comes with probably playing in events and going through that, walking that
Hmm.
journey of playing in competitive events, of what you need. Do you need to sit there and just go home and get the sleep and the rest, or can you go out and have a beer or two and really kind of kick back with the people for a couple hours and then still be able to go? I mean, I would say, like Matt Booker's a great example of that. He usually, like, if he's locked in, you're not going to see him. He's going to be locked in. He's going to go get his rest and he's going to be gone. It's he, and compared to, well, and I think last year I don't recall seeing Scott out and about, that much. I mean, granted, he was there with his family, so like he
Hmm.
was probably spending time with his family and stuff, but he wasn't out, doing everything like that. So like some people, that's how they lock in, they doing their own things, and that's if they have that focus. So, but
Yeah,
again, that's having that self realization and self able to see internally what's best for you.
yeah. Yeah, and last year I went to like a bobblehead museum in nearby. I went out and I did some axe throwing, and had some drinks and did some axe throwing with some buddies in between those
I can
days.
see you being a lumberjack. I can see that.
I had never done that before in my life. That was my first time, and I was told that I was pretty good, considering.
Axe throwing is great. There's a place not far from me that, like, there's an axe throwing bar, and they give,
Yeah.
the thing is that they have a full bar like attached to it, and they give discounts to veterans. I'm like, this is probably not a good idea to sit there and like mix axe throwing and heavy drinking, but let's
It's
go and
fine.
try it anyway. Let's try it anyway. But yeah, no, it's a good
It,
time. I think I took my wife there for her birthday. We went and threw some axes and had dinner and stuff like that. There was
it's a
Aubrey and Talia.
blast.
It was a good time. Yeah, a
Yeah.
good time. So yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's probably a good way to blow off some steam if you're like,
Hmm.
had a bad day playing some Shatterpoint. Just go throw
Well,
some
hold on.
axes at some people.
Well,
Good.
hold on. Be very careful. Be very careful. If I take my buddy and he's like, Cassian, I didn't have a good day, and I'm like, I might rethink taking him near some throwing axes.
You stay far behind him when he has
Yeah.
the axe.
Right. Or if I'm like, hey, is he? I didn't bring Cassian. Cool. We can go. We can go. It's safe. I'm safe. I'm
Or
safe.
just take a little Cassian and put him up there on
Okay.
at the target, so he just gets to throw it at there. Really
Oh
take that
goodness.
anger out. Fantastic. Well, I mean, I think that kind of like is about all I wanted to talk about. I mean, did you have any like closing thoughts on like getting ready or anything like that? I mean, we went through quite a bit there.
Hmm. Just whatever you can to mentally prepare yourself, to physically prepare yourself, all of the above. Like there's a lot of steps, and
Hmm.
if you can think about it, and if you're ready to lock stuff in and say, yeah, let's do this, let's buy a ticket for these days, let's this is the list I'm going to play. If you can, if you know what you're going to do, lock it in and make life easy, pack it up. You don't, maybe go play with it a couple times in between now and then. Just simplify your life going forward. If you can think about it now, do it.
Right. Right. And I would say if you haven't made the decision whether you're going to go or not, you probably need to do that pretty soon because tickets are close to sold out. I
Mhm.
think I've said it multiple times. They sold over 6,000 tickets in the first couple of hours.
Yeah.
Just for the badges. So you definitely want to make sure that you are getting locked in if you're planning on going or thinking about going. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a fun event one way or the other.
And that's just like they won't sell out of badges, right? Like you could always visit.
Yeah,
Is that right? You mean when you say tickets, you mean like the event, the individual
correct.
events?
Correct. So you can always go and get a badge to get into the convention itself, and go and see like the vendors and like walk around and see all the games being played, and there's and maybe but the thing as far as like entries, there's only a select number of entries to each individual event that's being played. The World Championship qualifier event, I think, was, like I said, capped at 128, and they have 10 tickets as of. I want to say it was like 10 o'clock or like noon today, which is we're recording on Tuesday. So it's getting close. So I would say that if you're on the fence, you need to probably make up your mind pretty soon, because they're probably going to sell out. They've already expanded Legion. They've expanded MCP. And I don't think they're going to expand those anymore. And those guys have less than 10 tickets for each one of their world championships.
There's only so much space. And
right.
Yeah. Buy your ticket. Come visit.
Yeah. It's going to be a good time. Yeah.
Come see Aubrey.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And Jake will be back again. And then Austin will be coming out and joining us. He's going to be our fourth this year, kind of filling in for Izzy, nice. Doing some everything there. So it'll be good. I think we're going to have a good time. I like that he helped me. He kind of filled in and did some commentary at LVO. So I think he's and he's done some like streaming of games himself before. So he's definitely going to be able to do stuff. And like I said, I've been working like crazy on trying to make the overlays a little bit better. So hopefully it'll be a little bit visually, a little better visually for people and everything. So, but we'll see what happens there with all of that. Well, yeah, I guess I can close out here by saying thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely do so by becoming a patron, for as little as $1 a month. If that is not for you, you can always leave us a comment or support us by liking, subscribing, giving us a rating of some sort on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And that definitely helps to like get that algorithm saying, hey, look at me, because that's what we want is you to say, and look at me. So we definitely appreciate that, like everything you guys do though. But as always, definitely appreciate each and every one of you, and come and visit us at Adepticon, because it's going to be fun and we're going to have a good time and enjoy it. So if either tune in and watch us on the YouTubes, or come and say hi if you're at the event, because it's going to be a fun time. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Chris. You've been awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you.